Hey everybody, thanks for coming and first and foremost, congratulations. It's always a good sign and it is a really big step for any business owner to get out there and start securing information and details and material from anyone and everyone that they're able to. And it's a big step because a lot of people are even afraid to take that step and to learn and then to actually jump off the cliff and kind of run their program or their business and do it the best way they can for their situation, their family, and where they're at in their life and the life cycle of their business. So, first and foremost, congratulations for joining in and being a part of this. And I know the BACP has a lot of fantastic programming, so certainly hopeful that you will continue to make yourself available to all that free programming and all the assistance that is available. And BACP has a lot of fantastic partners and appreciative that I'm able to come here and present to you. I know that in my own journey as a business owner and helping businesses with their issues from a legal perspective, that kind of been there, seen that with a whole lot of different things. And I realized that a lot of it is just persistence, it's consistency, and there is some luck involved in it. And so, if I can be an extra motivator or a cheerleader for you as you continue or as you start your journey, please do not hesitate to reach out at any time. We're all a community, and we all kind of lean on each other at different parts in the journey. So, with that being said, we're going to move forward with kind of the basics of forming your business. A lot of people that kind of uh, have an idea about legal entities and things like that, and also some things that you can do to mitigate your risks so that you're not making high dollar errors early on in your business startup. And so this is not by any means going to be a full all-encompassing, everything about starting a business, in an hour. But I think it's a fair primer, and it's part of an ongoing conversation and kind of road that you'll be on. And again, encourage any questions as we go through the slides. I'll give you kind of a little of a roadmap, but as we go forward on this, if you want to have any questions, please do include them in the chat box. I'll be stopped and we can go over any questions there are there so that we're not kind of moving forward without addressing any kind of concerns or issues that you might have or clarifications. And then that'll go for about an hour with the presentation. And then the last 30 minutes, I'd like to keep it open for just Q&A and answering any questions that I can to the best of my ability, and giving some tips and tricks and things like that too. So let's make this a good one. So starting off, oh, look at that. Being comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's what being a business owner is, and just pivoting and figuring things out as you go. Sometimes you're jumping out of the plane and stitching the parachute on the way down. Just a little bit of background about who we are. I guess it's kind of like the credibility slides. All right, why should you even bother with what I'm saying? And maybe you shouldn't. You should be a healthy cynic and do your own research and things like that because that's what it is. And you certainly need to have that kind of healthy skepticism about things. But the Chokshi Filippone Law, it's a boutique law firm. We kind of handle the gamut of things outside of family and criminal, really. We do offer something that's different, fixed fee and limited scope representation, which, just from our backgrounds, coming from business families, and just our review of, the legal profession and attorneys and the incubator program that, we kind of grew out of. We understand that, especially for business owners, hourly billing, just telling people, hey, charge this much an hour and, we'll keep working until you can't pay anymore. That's not really comfortable for a lot of business owners that have fixed fees and fixed costs and things like that that they need to worry about. And so we like to take an approach where it's just a flat fee upfront. We'll let you know, hey, here's what you need, whether it's commercial lease review or handbook creation or something else like that, and what that cost will be so that you know what the deliverable is, you know what the timeline is, you know what the cost is, so that, again, you can make the best decision for yourself and your business at the end of the day. And we do serve clients in the Chicago and surrounding burbs. We do have an office downtown. We'll put that up at the end as well, and then in suburban Mount Prospect for anyone that prefers that. My background, just I'm a quintessential nerd. I've always been kind of a curious guy, interested in anything and everything, but especially business, given that was, my family's background. So we had a restaurant over in Schiller Park. My parents were both immigrants, so quintessential immigrant story, first generation, and all that good stuff. Heavily involved in the community at different points in my career. Been involved with different things like junior achievement, which I really enjoy because before that was really before COVID. And then things kind of tapered off after COVID, but it's starting to pick up again, where we go into local schools and teach about financial literacy through kind of games and worksheets and things like that. Which, again, for people that have been through it, they know financial literacy is kind of a topic that's missing in grade schools, and so it's a little bit unfortunate. But I fully understand with the curriculum that teachers are involved with and everything they got to do. It's pretty tight to put anything else in there and expect our teachers to do that. So, and then we do a lot of work as well in the community over here locally in Mount Prospect, and just again trying to help out where we can and doing the most right that we can. So a little bit of a outline for where we're going to be. We're going to be looking at business plan and strategy, kind of what I call an MBA in a box, MBA 101, to give you kind of a start on that. And then the actual entity selection and formation. Those are things like the corporation, LLC, partnership, like what you might consider being, depending on what your situation. Some best practices, and then protecting your business, some kind of like tips that you might want to think about as you're starting out your business. And this is a constantly evolving thing as you're running your business. I mean, you have different points in the lifeline from, birth of your business and starting up to growth. And then you reach those growth pains where you're kind of plateauing as well. And you need another push to take it to the next level and things like that. So it's kind of a constantly evolving and constantly reviewed kind of situation that you're going to want to be cognizant of to make the best decisions for yourself, your business, your family, as well as what the next steps are. It's never to really think about exit strategy as well, to kind of think about, where do you want to be and what your exit strategy, whether that's exit from success or exit even potentially from failure. Because sometimes you have to think about cutting your losses and what that tipping point is, where you decide this isn't the best situation. I need to change my direction, whether that's a new business or whether that's a new product or service or something else like that. But just acknowledging what is and what isn't working so that you're not throwing, good money after bad, and kind of figuring out your sunk costs as you go. So here we go. SWOT analysis. Again, the MBA in the box, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, POR's five forces, and a 5P marketing mix, and then your actual business plan. Business plan is going to be important because for yourself, it's kind of a roadmap to what you're expecting. And again, it's going to change drastically, especially in those first, few months, few years, until you kind of key in on what your business actually is and what you do well, your core competencies, and where you're making your margins and your money, and what's successful, depending on what market you're looking at, or if you got to change that. And there's a whole host of things. So don't be surprised if that changes, if that's reviewed and changes a lot more with a lot greater frequency at the start than it does on the back end. But you also need to be responsible to, if you're going to commit to something, to see it through, to make sure that you're not just changing strategies really quick. Because what I see with a lot of new business owners is if something doesn't work within a week, like a marketing strategy, like they're going for magazines and they're not seeing a lot of hits like in the first week, all of a sudden they pull it. And so for marketing, usually you want to spend a few months at least, to kind of make sure that you're investing, getting that name out there, getting that recognition out there in whatever medium that you think is going to be best for your business and your service and where your clientele is going to be, in order to see, all right, is there an actual return? Am I hitting anything? Or if it's after, a quarter of doing that, 3 months, you don't get one single hint. Okay, maybe you change to a different publication or a different medium or something else like that. But you need to have enough time and money set aside to commit to whatever you think is the best way to get those customers through the door, and to give it a chance to kind of take root and actually flower something, instead of just planting a seed and expecting it to grow very quickly. For SWOT analysis, that's an important thing. I think I do that, even with our business and when I'm talking with our people too. It's kind of thinking about what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are the opportunities, what are the threats in terms of internal. That's into your own processes, right? Like, are you sometimes for a lot of weaknesses for people is uh, they don't really do the numbers. They don't do the books well. So that's why it's important to have an accountant or a partner that handles that kind of the business and the financials and things like that more than maybe your strength might be more advertising or getting out there hustling and getting customers and talking with people and doing that part of the business. So it's important to make sure that you have people in place. As you're starting out a business, you're probably going to be that person. You're going to be the janitor. You're going to be the accountant. You're going to be the production specialist. You're going to be, the admin person. You're going to be anything and everything because money's tight, bootstrap, a lot of what people say, but it's the truth. But as you grow, you start thinking like, all right, what are my weaknesses and what are the weaknesses in my business and how do I address those? As well as strengths. You're looking at what do you do well. Core competency is, if you're an accountant, your core competencies better be financial and tax kind of advice and having knowledge in that particular area of knowledge and being able to impart that on people. Services, they're a little bit service-based things like professional work, like attorneys, like accountants, things like that. They usually do take some additional time because, think about it when you're looking at an attorney to hire or an accountant to hire, you want to build a relationship, you want to build that trust, you want to know that that person that's helping you is a partner in the business and in your life, and they're not just, you're not just another name on a monthly list of like new customers that they're trying to bring in for their business either. And so, going out in the community, being a part of the chamber, going to BACP events, going out to, different small business development centers, going out to different events that they put on and things like that, and getting comfortable with people, learning what your uh, what your kind of risk tolerance is as well. It's important to start building up those relationships because you can tell people that are genuine versus people that are just putting on a mask and trying to do something because they're trying to get our customer through the door. So you want to have those relationships, but you also need to let them build organically. And so, think about it. When you're approached by a door-to-door salesman, you're probably going to be a lot more skeptical than if it's someone referred by a friend or someone that you've known for a year or two. You're more willing to, ask honest questions and have that relationship and then divulge additional information. Oh, my apologies. Every once in a while. All right. Threats. That's also important because it's kind of like what's the potential for someone to substitute you, right? If you have a product, that's why people are so keen on things like patents and trademarks and things like that because they're trying to protect that product that they're creating to make sure that someone can't come in and just steal your idea and do it cheaper and just undercut you on price, even if it's a slightly inferior product. Money talks. That's the 5P. One of the 5Ps in the marketing mix is price. You can undercut people on price, and a lot of people they'll understand. That they've got no issue paying a lower price and just using the thing, and they realize it's not going to last forever. I use like consider like a toilet brush. Most people they just want the cheapest thing possible. They're just going to like use it a few times and then they'll get a new one in our time. Most people aren't going to go out and buy a solid gold toilet brush, for $500 because it's too much money. Price is psychotic. Most people are using it to clean their toilet anyway, so they'll just do it in their usual routine and get a new one, and they're not really looking for anything long term from a toilet brush, as opposed to a short term thing that serves its purpose for what it is. And so price is something that you can do, and then opportunities. It's kind of like where are you expanding? What are you doing? Sometimes. I use this example because it's relatively recent, but it can also kind of give a concern about the risks of oversaturation or expanding, but also like the temptation to expand as well. Yeti, they're coolers. great product, all that good stuff. But you notice they started with the cans, and then all of a sudden it started to go into lunch boxes and giant coolers, and then they started doing like apparel, and all these things, and it just like the product line started expanding because they were trying to turn it into like this almost lifestyle brand and things like that. And then Stanley came in now, and now they're the new thing for suburban water retention items. Like it's weird to see what like my kids and the cheapest thing possible because they lose most of their water bottles anyway. So it's whatever we get from, school events and things like that. I'm not investing money into a water holder. All right. But that's me personally. Some people prefer other ways, but that's the potential threat from outside competitors too. Stanley's coming in now; they're eating like Yeti's lunch. I don't know what the next one's going to be. When I was in college, it was Nalgene bottles, so I'm probably dating myself. But it's always something, and these trends are kind of they go on, and so you have to consider those kinds of ebbs and flows in your own business and your product launch and what you do as well. Porter's Five Forces, a great idea for kind of marketing and kind of thinking about, like what I was just talking with water coolers and holders and things like that. And for yourself, you need to consider, especially if you're doing a product and you're not creating everything yourself in-house, and you're getting like maybe you're getting bits and pieces. Like the example I often use is like Augie's gift baskets. If I start a gift basket company, I'm getting the actual basket from one company. I'm getting the styrofoam or the plastic wrap from another place. I'm getting the little trinkets and chocolates and teddy bears and things like that, depending on the season from different places. And so you want to be cognizant in those situations, for example, of things like supplier power. Like you might want to have some redundancies. That's not a bad thing to have a redundancy, but just to have maybe like two or three potential basket suppliers so that if one basket supplier they go belly up because someone's sick and they can't come in and they can't make the baskets anymore, you know that it's not going to interrupt your business and you're going to be able to get those baskets from someone else just as quickly for around the same price, and it's not going to interrupt your business because if you don't have a basket, you can't give out gift baskets, right? It's pretty integral part of your business. And especially as you're starting out, you're probably not going to have a machine or workers that are going to make your own baskets. Maybe as you get bigger, if it makes sense, to make your own baskets and on a marginal cost, that works out. Fantastic. It's one thing that you can take in-house. But again, the threat is now you have additional overhead costs with employees and materials and things like that that you got to buy in order to make the baskets, even if you do it in-house. So most times it's just cheaper to kind of farm out some things because maybe that's not your core competency. Like going back to the original side, making the baskets, it's more getting them together and having the customer list so that people that are willing to pay $100 for a special basket, not just around holiday times, but year round, and keeping that going, and having that kind of customer base that does that for you. And anything can be a business, certainly. 5P marketing mix, kind of touched on it a little bit, but you're kind of thinking about, all right, what's your product? What are your customers interested in? What features are going to sell it? What features differentiate you? How to package it? Sometimes you have something like if you go to the liquor aisle at Binny's or something like that, a lot of times it's kind of hard. They have their case, over there where you can taste test and things like that from the employees, but most of the time it's you're kind of selling people on the bottle design or the artwork, or the name, or like a lot of like bands and celebrities and things have their own like vodkas and things like that or distilled spirits that they're selling, and the kind of marketing to you. And so there's a connection to that goes to the promotional piece as well. But the product itself, sometimes there's on the product itself it'll say like how you use it or what it's used for, so that you kind of give people an idea of Oh, it's a new product. Here's what I need. Here's how I do it. Here's how I put it together. If you go to Costco a lot, like they got the mop buckets or something like in the spring, they're always on sale. And so it's like on a product that shows you how easy it is to put together so that people don't feel scared to put something together. Because when they package it to save costs, they kind of do the handle separately and the mop and all that stuff. And so the end customer is the one that puts it together in order to save on cost for shipping and repairs and damage and things like that. And so that's one of the things they'll put actually on the package is look how easy this is to set up so that they don't scare someone away from buying that product at the cheaper price than something else. Price, like I mentioned, people how are they relating? That has to do a lot with kind of like what guarantees do you want to give to people? What warranties? What back end kind of promises do you want to make to people? And that touches on a lot of different areas as well. Promotion. You're trying to create that brand. You're trying to create that experience. Usually, again, that's going to take something where it's time that you need to invest in that and money in order to do that. And you need to consider what your alternatives are and what really is going to catch somebody's eye. Because when you're thinking about whether you're driving a billboard or whether you're in the grocery aisle with kids yelling at you or something else like that, like what catches your eye? If it's really really vivid colors, if it's certain design features or something like that, that's going to really make you stand apart from your competitive set in order to get those eyeballs on you and get interested in you to at least give you the chance to make an impression once they actually try your product. And then place, like, are people easily able to find you? Are you on the middle shelf or are you all the way in the bottom? If you ever want to get into stores, the thing that you want to be careful and cognizant of, stores realize that they have some power, they have some leverage because they're the actual physical brick and mortar place, and so they're probably going to charge you to even show up on the shelves, or they got limited space, and so that comes at a premium, and they might want a lower price to make sure that they make their margin on each unit that they sell. Or what happens if they don't sell and they just, instead of taking it as their loss, they'll just give it back to you kind of thing. And if you've got foodstuffs, that's going to live limited shelf life. So are you willing to take that risk too? So a lot of times if you got like food products or things like that, a really great way to do it is to just get local markets, local meat markets, small stores, things like that, that have a little more flexibility. Chances are you're not immediately going to go to Walmart or Jewel or Target or anything else like that and have that kind of impact. Those customers, that's a great goal to reach to. But starting out, most businesses, unless they've got significant influence or investors or money behind it, that's not the way to do it. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. Doesn't necessarily need to be brick and mortar stores as well. It's, certainly selling online, creating something viral, but the threat with things like just saying I'm going to put it on Facebook or I'm going to put it on Instagram or I'm going to put it on Twitter or something else like that and just advertise. It takes a little bit of money, so fine. It's not, per click, that could be a good conversion rate for you and it could work out. But if you're trying to do it without like those targeted ads or things like that, and you're just trying to create it like on your Facebook page, or make YouTube videos, you're probably going to need to stick with it for a while because it's free to do and it's free to go out there. Yeah, but that's for everyone. They're able to do that. So how do you compete in this entire world and make yourself different and stand out so that people want to pay attention to you? So that's the big thing there. It's cheap, it's easy, but because it's cheap and easy, it's everyone's doing it already. So how do you differentiate that? I'll take a pause over here. Do we have any questions already or any concerns? Nope, maybe
Let's
not. All right.
see.
Oh,
No. You know what? There is something in the Q&A box. Do you see that?
I do not. I apologize. Could you just read it out? I apologize. I'm terrible
How
with typing.
often? Okay. How often are you able to teach Southside CPS students?
Oh, I happy to come and please reach out afterwards. I'll put my email account on there. Happy to talk. I go all around the city and the burbs, so wherever it might be. Always happy to chat, and then also always happy to chat on the phone too. So even if it's someone really down south, like in Cairo, Illinois, or something like that, by all means, happy to do so.
And the next question is, what kind of metrics should one use for marketing expectation?
That's going to depend on kind of what your expectations are for what your product is supposed to be. So I think something that people use often is called A/B testing, where they'll have two different ads that they'll create, and that's a great way to kind of test out different things like different colors on a product or different catchphrases or stuff like that. And you kind of put them both out like on Google or AdWords or something like that, and you kind of see like who clicks on what the most, like which, so at least you know which colors are more engaging. Like you don't want to change everything about them. You want to be able to just change like one thing or two things so that you can kind of key in on what it is the difference. And if you see 50 people clicking on this, but only 20 people clicking on this, okay, maybe it's this bright green color that's attracting people as opposed to doing the navy. So I'm gonna focus on that because everything else is the same, the script and the description and stuff like that. I think give yourself a time frame and expect kind of what your break even point is on new customers that you need or products sold in order to break even on whatever that spend was. So that's a good one to check out. And then what the impact is for your like current baseline. Because if you're selling 10 widgets a month, just going door to door, what's going to make it worthwhile for you? Is it 20, 30, 40? Like, and try and get those points there and see what that is. But I think new customers are always good. Repeat customers are even better because you know that they're trying the product and that they're coming back to use it again. It's not just a one-off where they say this thing is junk, I'm done with it. So repeat customers, I really like that one because that's where you know you've got something and you've got people that are willing to continue to put in their money to buy it again. It's not just a one-off. On the business planning and strategy, again, a lot of this for a lot of people, first round of funding is what I usually call friends and fools, and friends, family, and fools. So the three Fs, and some people are going to want to go out and get loans and things like that, which is fine. But when you go out and do these things, not just for yourself, but certainly a lender is going to want some more credibility to your name and your business, and you need to sell them on, okay, this isn't a risky investment. I'm going to get my money back plus interest. I mean, that's all the bank cares about. They don't really care what the product is or what the service is or whatever it is. They just want to make sure that dollars and cents, if you do fail, I'm going to be able to get my money back, or you're a good enough risk that there's a very good chance that I'm going to get my money back plus interest, and plus I'm going to have a customer that's going to continue to grow and take on more money and pay me more interest and all that stuff too. So you want to be cognizant of those kinds of things. On a business plan, just generally, these are the typical areas that anyone and their mother is going to want to have more information about what your business is. I find it's a good tool, even if you're not looking for friends or family, you're just putting in your own money, or you're not looking for a bank or anything like that. It's a good way to go through this process in order to kind of narrow down and allow you yourself to figure out what is my business? What are my strengths? How am I going to sell this? How am I going to make a living? What do customers want? Like truly what customers want, not what I think they want. What are they actually buying? Because that's ultimately what decides what a customer wants, where they put their money down, right? And so it's a great way to kind of tailor down and figure out what you're actually doing. And again, to reevaluate it as you go on in your business. But it's typical things. And this one I found, like Score Chicago, they're a great program. They do work with BACP2. They do a lot of like consulting and mentorships with business leaders and people that have been doing this for a while. Even you don't need to pay like for private consultants or stuff like that. Again, money is always going to be at a premium, especially as you're starting out and as you're growing, because that money could be used for something else to put into your business and to make it more efficient and work better for you. But there's also a lot of great programs, even at your local library. They have a lot of speak with your business librarian. There's a lot of great resources available, including like contact lists, marketing lists. They have like a lot of them have software for regarding business planning that can help you kind of like step by step kind of create the templates and things like that that you can use. And again, all free. It's all already paid for in your taxes. Certainly, business librarians at local libraries are just amazing. It's a great resource. People don't utilize it enough. There's a lot of great information out there, free at your fingertips, and they're more than happy to help. I've found nothing but great response from libraries and SBDC, the Small Business Development Centers as well, and the BACP putting on programs like this. All right, so the actual legal stuff, which you're probably expecting, but so entity selection information. At the end of the day, the biggest thing for this is that you want to consider you want to, as much as you can, to protect yourself personally. You want to separate your business assets from your personal assets because if your business does go belly up, or you have a product and it gets like a recall and you get sued or something like that, you want to make sure that your business is separate and it's its own baby as opposed to your house that you live and that you go to sleep and you lay your head on the pillow at night, and that is the roof covering your family and your kids and all that stuff too. So as much as you can, you want to create that barrier to those assets, and the best way to do that is with these legal entities. Uh, Sole prop, that one is not going to give you the barrier. That's not the shield that you want. That one's nothing. That's like a kid's lemonade stand. That one's when you're just starting out. If you can't pay like with the Secretary of State, the state of Illinois, or whatever state you're incorporating in, that's whatever Secretary of State for that that you're operating in. That's the state it's going to be. So for this case, we'll just use Illinois because we're here. But Sole prop, that's a lot cheaper. That's really nothing. You can use a trade name, like if you want Augie's Lemonade Stand or something like that. It's more, it's more just kind of like to have a name, and something, but it doesn't give you any kind of liability protection. So it's not the preferred way to do things. But when you're just starting out, if you're just creating a few samples for people to see if there's something there before you invest the money to create the company and do all that paperwork and stuff like that, maybe it could be a way to go. To just put your name out there, see what hits, see if people are interested, to kind of test it out. In California, with they got this phrase "fail fast," just kind of figure out what doesn't work, kick it out of the way, reiterate, and go to the next one and make that better and see if that works better for you. Partnerships, the same as a sole prop. It doesn't have any kind of liability protection, but really it's when you have two or more people. And so this is why you need to be careful, because even when you go into business, if you go into business with anyone but yourself, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's some guy off the street, whatever it is, as soon as you get more than one person, you start getting into concerns about agencies and partnerships and what impact one person's decisions and one person's actions have on you as well. Because at that point, you're becoming a unit. So, like if you get, your buddy down the street and you start mowing lawns for the summer or something like that, if you both get, Augie's lawn service, Augie and Tim's lawn service, right? And I get the fancy shirts, I pay, a few dollars to get it stitched on, and Augie and Tim go out there. If Tim's a complete knucklehead and he starts, throwing lawnmowers at people's houses and then he breaks windows, or he starts chasing small children with the lawnmower and getting the blade running or something like that, and he hurts them, I mean, that's going to be held against me as well because it's Augie and Tim's lawnmower service. So you've really got to be careful with, what you do and who you go into business with as well, which is why it's so important to have that kind of agreement, almost considering like it's a marriage, who you go into business with, and taking time to make sure that that person is someone that you do trust, and putting restrictions and rules and responsibilities in place so that everyone knows what they're responsible for, how to impact each other, and to make sure that if something does go bad or something does go south with someone, whether they make grand promises for way too much money or hurt somebody or do something wrong, that you have a way out or a way to separate yourself from that person, to kind of limit the exposure to yourself as well. And that's where we'll get into kind of like operating agreements and bylaws. Those things are kind of the rules. Those are the prenup for the business of relationship that you have. And that's why things like the operating agreement and the bylaws, you should have those reviewed by your own attorney. Sometimes you'll have, the company will have an attorney, or all the partners will come together and they'll say, hey, we just want one attorney for the company to represent the company and create the company and all that stuff. That's perfectly fine. But really at that point, what the attorney is going to need, and what the partner, what the people in the business are going to all want to know, is that attorney there needs to be like a waiver of conflict, because that attorney is the attorney for the business, not for each individual person. And so you can't play chess with yourself. So usually the partners, they're going to want to get their own independent attorney and their own attorney to look over stuff, so that they can have attorney-client privilege. They can be honest with that person about what their concerns are for the business, and get the best deal for themselves and protect themselves. And the only way you do that is if you have your own attorney that's responsible to you only. So that's one of the things whenever there's a situation with multiple owners in a company. It's a who do who's your attorney, or who's the attorney for, and who's the client? Who's the attorney? Who's the client? Specify that specifically. You're going to want to know that. Sometimes I've seen people get taken advantage of, where like a partner with some big money, they come in and they're like, oh, I'll just have the attorney draw up everything and we'll put everything under your name because you're the florist. You know how to do everything, but I'm just the money. I'm going to be in the background. And so, like, the florist will come up and say, does that sound okay? This sounds great. They're going to pay for the attorney. They're going to do everything. They're going to put all the money, and I get to live my dream of, having a floral shop. And my first question is always, is that your attorney or is that their attorney? Because usually it's the attorney for the person with the money. And so the things that they're going to draft and the things that they're going to say are going to necessarily be in favor of, the person with the money, because they got the leverage and they've got, the attorney that's working for them. And so, the attorney should be upfront with that, but sometimes forget to mention it. And so then it's not until you get a bad situation, the florist realizes, oh no, that person was working for the bad guy in the situation now, that's trying to close me out and take all my money and claim that I owe stuff and things like that. So when things go bad, which is why you want to have those conversations on the front end. Corporation's a common one. That's one of the biggies. Again, you're going to get the limited liability protection from that. It's a separate living, kind of breathing person. It's its own entity on there. And so typically what you do with that is, again, with the state of Illinois, you'll file what's called Articles of Incorporation. Secretary of State, for whatever the state is responsible for kind of running all these organizations and organizing them, and rights and responsibilities and things like that. And the bylaws that I mentioned, those are going to be the rules of the road. If you've got there's some formalities like the meetings. If you notice, like sometimes in the mail you'll get like annual shareholder meeting for McDonald's Corp or something like that. And so you need to have those kinds of abilities for the shareholders, the people that own whatever percentage in the company, to vote, if they have voting shares, about different issues and different concerns, and have a board together to run the company and do like large scale policy kind of considerations and things like that, and then have your day-to-day people. But that's the biggie. That's one of the more common ones. Again, very very formal. Got to worry about sticking to those formalities too, because if you don't have things like annual reports filed, or annual meetings, or do things in the best interest of the shareholders and the company and things like that, it can trigger other responsibilities, or maybe potential risks to that company, or to you as a shareholder, or even potentially that it dissolves the company and then it ceases to exist. And if that's the case, that's one way where like a plaintiff attorney might try and say, hey, there's no more limited liability protection anymore because this corporation didn't file their annual report. So technically they're dead. So I can go after this person's personal assets now. They don't have that shield anymore. And that's always the risk. And that's why you'll often hear the word like pierce the limited liability veil, or limited protection veil. That's what uh, a plaintiff attorney would try and do in any situation where they suspect, uh, the formalities weren't maintained for this company. Limited liability company, that's LLC is one that is very frequent, very common, especially for smaller startups. And it's because there's a little more flexibility. There isn't as much, like specifically reporting requirements. Typically, you can do them annually instead of, quarterly or monthly or things like that, that you would have to do with a corporation. So it's a little more laid back on paperwork. There's still a lot of paperwork that you got to do in order to make sure that you maintain it and then you keep that limited liability protection, certainly. But this one's fun because you can have members and managers too, and the difference is really like who's got the control. So when you're looking at these things with what's called an operating agreement and an LLC, it's the same thing as bylaws with a corporation, just a slightly different name. That's again the prenup for the business. When you're looking at the operating agreement and you're interested in joining an LLC, you're going to want to look at things like who else is in the company? Who else? How much did certain people put in for money? What percentage of the company did they own? How do you determine, how many signatures do you need, or who has authority to do things like buy land or file a trademark or buy large equipment or hire people, fire people, do things like that, because those are going to be you're going to want to read the operating agreement to determine what the rights and responsibilities are and what the risks are to you as well, um, uh, before you enter into that company, as well as who's got the authority. Because sometimes some of these, with LLCs, if you're going in with like three people, you might only want to work with those three people. And so if you're a member of that LLC with those three other people, you might not want, the other people to be able to just sell their interest to some Joe Schmo off the street. You might say, hey, the only reason I got into this business was because Al, if anyone's got married with children, Al's got the shoe selling experience. He knows everything about shoes. So I want to go into business because I think Al's going to be a great resource for this company. If Al sells it to his son who doesn't know anything about shoes, um, you don't want to be in business with his son. You want to be in business with Al. So that it's kind of important to kind of have those restrictions on there so that again you're all protected from the worst impulses of other people and making sure that everything's going in the right direction. Some big differences on S corps and LLCs because those are the two big ones that most people consider. There are other options like B Corps, benefit corporations. Anyone that's got little kids, like the Happy Baby, the food pouches and things like that. You'll see on the back of it B, and it's like a benefit corporation. Typically, it's just like a corporation, but they have a certain percentage that they give for worthwhile or good causes, that they put out there and put out things like that. So it's just a decision for what your business is, what your branding wants to be, what you're trying to promote, and things like that. And then taxation, you should have a qualified. If you're not going to be the accountant, you're not a numbers person, you should have on your bench, besides an attorney, a banker, you should have some kind of accountant on there or tax professional to let you know kind of what the risks are to certain you know and certain tax implications depending on what you're doing and what you're bringing in and things like that. So that's something that you're going to want to focus on and have on your bench. And an insurance person as well. Depending on what you have, if you have like a product liability, just in case something goes bad with it. If you've got a storefront, certainly you're going to want the insurance person for property. Products completed for things like that, and general liability in case someone slips and falls on the snow in front of there. And then if you are looking for like a storefront kind of business, you'll want to talk with a trusted commercial like a real estate agent because they're going to be out there knowing the places and terms and being able to assist you not only with the attorney but with the actual agent to determine things like when you're buying, if you're renting a place, right? You got a storefront, a floral shop. All right, what about build outs? Are you getting who's going to pay to make this place and get the fridge in there and all that stuff? Oh, sorry. who's gonna handle the insurance? Who's gonna handle the common area maintenance if there is anything? Who's gonna handle the property taxes? Are those gonna be built into the price? Is the landlord gonna cover it? And then it's just passed on to you as a charge every year. Things like that. Another big thing with I'm kind of going into commercial leases, that's a separate presentation that we give a BACP as well. But think about it. If you're in a strip mall, you probably want to have an exclusive use as well because you don't, if you're opening up a floral shop there, you don't want to have other floral shops open up right next door in the same strip mall. So you want to restrict the landlord from being able to do that as well. So those are some things where, again, details, specifics based on your profile and what your business is. And I think I saw some questions as well. Do we have any there? I'll take a break now. Oh, my fault. All right, I'll keep going. All good. I will get to those questions. I apologize. Um, Best practices, again, corporate formalities. If you're going to have the business, do it right because if you don't, you risk losing that limited liability protection on the business, whatever that might be. The corporate formation documents, you want to make sure that they're drafted properly. They have all the rights and responsibilities. They're signed. You maintain annual filing fees with the Secretary of State. If there's any edits, if you bring in a new person or you leave a person or change addresses for your principal place of business, things like that, you're going to want to make sure you maintain that stuff. Keeping personal assets separate. So, if you got a mortgage on your house, make sure that so take a step back. Usually, the way it happens is, especially if you've got a small business and you're just starting out, it's one person, and it's very frequently that that one person is paying themselves a salary or some kind of distribution from the business to themselves, in order to feed their kids and live their life and all that stuff outside the business. And so, what I say with people is, look, it's really tempting to kind of just pay everything out of one bucket, but that's gonna what's called commingling assets. And that's a no-no. Again, you want to do that formality to keep that limited liability protection. So what you're going to want to do is open up a separate business checking account. And, from Augie's Baskets LLC, I pay myself a wage, distribution, whatever it might be, whatever taxes are associated with that. If I'm doing payroll through a company or through myself, whatever that might be, and setting up with the Illinois Department of Revenue and what have you. But pay a check that says Augie's Baskets LLC to Augie, $200 for payroll. It was a bad week. And it goes and it's paid literally Augie's Baskets LLC paid to Augie Filippone. And then it goes, then I cash that in my personal account. And then I can use that to pay my mortgage, for example, from my personal account for my personal check. So you want to keep that paper trail. I know it sounds a little it sounds a little like redundant. It sounds like what am I doing? Like the money at the end of the day is still going to me at the end of the day, but it's important to keep that and track that formality in order to protect yourself so that you can show the business and yourself are separate. Even though you are the business for all intents and purposes, the responsibility and the obligations to that are verifiable and they are proven so that if someone were to sue you or someone were to sue your business, they wouldn't be able to get after your personal assets. And the most harm they could do is go after your business and whatever accounts and assets that you have in that business. Um, all contracts, accounts, things like that. Again, keep it formal. If you're going to sign a lease, best case situation, or if you're going to sign a contract, the best way to do it is to sign it, Augie Filippone as authorized agent or as a representative for Augie's Baskets LLC. You want to make sure that those contracts and all that stuff are signed in the name of the company with you as the representative of that company as opposed to personally, so that if something does go bad, the chances are that they'll only be able to go after the business assets. Now, banks, large vendors, things like that, they know that. They know that anyone and their mom can open up a corporation or an LLC or a company really quick. They just gotta, do it. It doesn't need to be anything super well done, even because there are some basic rules in Illinois law in terms of obligations and things like that. But that's why they have things like guarantees. So when you open up a bank account, even if it's for your company, Augie's Baskets LLC, and you get the checks with Augie's Baskets LLC and the credit card with Augie's Baskets and all that stuff, the bank will say, okay, fine, but if this company folds up, we need to go after someone. And so we're going to go after your personal assets. So you need to give us a guarantee. And that's very frequent. That a guarantee in and of itself doesn't break any kind of limited liability protection that you might have against the business, but it goes around that by giving like a, it's a garage door opener to allow the bank, in case Augie's Baskets LLC doesn't pay their bills, they can go after me personally. But if anyone else that doesn't have the guarantee, that isn't, listed on there, they can't go after my personal assets. So like your individual vendors aren't going to be able to go after your personal assets, even though the bank will. And so that's why the guarantee is so important. And that's very frequently done, again, because anyone that's loaning you out money, they're going to want that confirmation that you just can't fold up and they go chase someone that's or a company that's not there anymore. Sometimes you'll see that with unscrupulous contractors or things like that, where they'll just open up a new shop the day after and close out another one and things like that. And another word for that is fraud. But the people have creative ways of making money that is, if they would only use their energies for the right things, they'd probably make even more. Written agreements, any attorney is going to tell you there are such things as oral agreements, so you got to watch out kind of what you say as well, because that can be held against you down the road as well, and that could put you into a binding agreement as well. Always make sure that any kind of agreement, whether it's engagement, whether it's for work, whether it's a contract for services or products to be delivered or things like that, have some kind of written confirmation of what that is. And it doesn't need to be anything super legalese. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different contracts, that you can find in everyday life that you can use, that you can kind of, gussy up a bit in order to make it fit your purposes and what your business is. But the most important thing is to just know what you're doing, because a lot of people, they can probably do simple plumbing themselves, but really it becomes like, all right, do you know what tools to use? Do you know what steps to use to not make it as much of a mess or to do it more efficiently? And so you're going to want to, it doesn't need to be anything super legalese, but offer acceptance consideration. So like, what are you doing? Who's involved? Who are the parties? Is there a specific date? Is there a specific time for delivery? The amount of units? What are the units? Like, what are you delivering? What is it? Is it a finished product? Is it pieces? What's the price? What happens if someone doesn't keep their end of the bargain? Do you go after them in court? Do you get fees? What are your costs? Things like that. Let's see if I can. No, darn it. I don't know how to do this. Do we have some questions? I apologize though. Nope. All right. Keep going. I apologize. Again, I know my core competency is not IT. So that's why I always have someone else handling that stuff. So I apologize with the business. The other thing, insurance. Again, it's just insurance is there. You're not going to get insurance on your like 10-speed bike, because most people, if it gets stolen or broken or something like that, they can afford to pay an extra 100, $200 to get it. So it doesn't make sense to get insurance. But for big things, like if you've got a store, you're gonna want insurance to make sure that if a fire broke out or a pipe broke and there was severe water damage or something like that, that it's covered, because that can get to six figures over. And so that's going to be a risk that's too high for you, and so that's why you're going to get insurance, whatever that might be. If you do a lot of work online, you're going to probably want some cyber liability, which is why you're going to want to work with a trusted insurance professional as well, to kind of figure out what kind of coverages do I need? What are typical limits for my business and my projected growth and what my sales are, and what my timeline is in the business. Work comp, as soon as you get one employee, you need to have that. It's just going to be required by the state of Illinois, and they've got certain tables on what the risk factors are for each job classification. So if, for example, a small one, if you've got someone that's 90% of the time that all they do is administrative work, they work at a computer sitting down, clacking on a keyboard, but 10% of the time they're working in a warehouse and they're moving heavy materials and things like that. that's going to be a high risk job. It doesn't matter. They're going to bill you and charge you for the work comp at the rate of that uh, uh, warehouse worker. They're not going to charge you for, just working on a computer. They're going to say the higher risk one, which is when you're in the back, when you're moving boxes and heavy materials and running machines and things like that. That's where the real risk is. That's your highest one. I don't care that it's only 10% of your job. We're still going to charge you at that rate. That's what you're going to be considered as and classified as. An area where people sometimes get into problems is when they try and do 1099 everybody, where they say, well, they're not an employee, they're an independent contractor. And Department of Labor, State of Illinois, they've kind of cracked down on that. There's a lot of great information if you want to look onto IDES and the Department of Labor and other places like that with information. But there is a big difference between someone who's a true independent contractor, where you're subbing out stuff for just say like, here's the job that I need done, here's what I need to buy, here's what I'll give you for it, versus an employee. And typically that revolves around control. How much control do you have? Does the person have to use your tools? Does the person have to use your methods? Is the person wearing your garb? Do they have something that says Augie's Baskets LLC on them? Are they driving around a van that's, says Augie's Baskets LLC in there? So it's not at that point specifically an independent contractor, because I start having control over that person and how I deliver the product or service. The more control I have, the more likely they're going to be an employee, even if you want to say they're an independent contractor. And so if they get hurt, that's going to trigger work comp. And a lot of times, like people, I'll see they have family members that help out, at the company and things like that, and they're not really getting paid or stuff like that. But then they get hurt because something falls on them and they got to go to the hospital. And inevitably, Blue Cross Blue Shield finds out, oh, this person was working in a warehouse and that's how they crushed their foot. Well, Blue Cross Blue Shield is going to say, hey, Augie's Baskets LLC, even though that was your cousin Dom, he should be considered an employee. Like Augie, you should be paying for this, not Blue Cross Blue Shield. We need to recover the cost for that treatment, for that medical care. And so that's usually where it happens. So even if the family's not going to turn you in, the insurance carriers will usually find you, and that's where it becomes an issue. But that's one big thing that you're going to want to be careful of. Trademarks, great resource. The biggest thing with trademark and things like that, it's going to need to be something that's like a commercial sale. And for commercial purposes, like Constitution commercial, it's got to be across state lines. So if you're just selling everything inside the state of Illinois and you don't have any sales to Indiana, Florida, Michigan, wherever it is that you're sending them, that's not truly a commercial sale. So you can't get a US trademark that covers your name or image or anything else like that that's exclusive or specific to your company that differentiates you, so that there isn't market confusion out there. And so you're going to want to, if you do have something where it's just in Illinois, you can still get what's called a state trademark, where it just covers your protection, so that someone can't use Augie's Baskets LLC, Augie's Baskets or my face. I don't know why anyone would want to use my face to sell a product, but if they do, my face and my image and my likeness and things like that, maybe they're gonna, just in Illinois, so I can get like a state's trademark so that no one else in Illinois can do it. If someone in Florida wants to use Augie's Baskets, via con Dios, let them go ahead, kind of thing. I don't really care because that's not my market and that's not a huge thing that I'm concerned about. But that kind of protects you. So you do have the ability to do just a state-specific trademark as well, and that would go through the Illinois Secretary of State as well. They handle all that stuff. But if you want to do it U.S. Wide, so that no one else can use Augie's Baskets LLC because you're planning on expanding or making this a national brand, that's great. And then if you're planning on going anywhere else, like Europe or different countries or Asia or anything like that, each kind of now you're looking at overseas trademarks. Each of the countries and the groups over there have their own process. So a USPTO, U.S. Patent and Trademark Office trademark isn't going to cover you for overseas stuff. So if you're going to do that and you're a big enough company that you want to get protection in China or Japan or Italy or whatever it might be, you have to go through each of those countries as well. Some of them have consortiums that protect a little bit, but yeah, outside the US, you're going to need to deal with their own kind of trademark services and patent services. And those are specialized, attorneys as well that do it, especially with patents, because usually a lot of the patent attorneys I know, they were big engineering kids. And they did because it's really specific, really detailed, science-based, working through those diagrams and those schematics and saying like what makes your product so different and what needs to be protected so that because you put in so much time and effort that if anyone else could do this and just give a cheap knockoff, it would be not considerate of your time. And you'll see that a lot with like pharma stuff too, drugs, which are why those are so important as well to maintain the money, the extreme amount of money that's put into creating those in the research. But even those have expiration dates as well. And so that's when you start getting the generics and things like that. And restrictive covenants, that's a great one for, if you've got employees or things like that, you like a special formula so that the cook doesn't learn your secret sauce, like your Coca-Cola recipe, and then they go to a competitor and they do the same thing and they just undercut you or tell everyone what makes you special so everyone else can do it and it becomes generic. The only restriction I'll say on that one, sometimes like Jimmy John's was doing this where they had like a delivery driver for 6 months and then they claimed, oh, you can't go deliver for Subway. Like they're a competitor, so we're going to keep you because now you know all the secrets to Jimmy John's sandwich, and Subway's going to steal it from us, and these are trade secrets. By and large, the court doesn't want to restrict people's ability to work or move or be able to make money. So really, at the end of the day, it's going to need to be like something super specialized beyond just the salary or pay or something like that that person knows that restricts them from being able to jump to a competitor or a different company and use that skill set as well. It's going to need to be really something specific there. And that's why usually in those fields like really highly scientific or technical fields, they'll have additional agreements specifically for non-compete. Sometimes I see them a lot with the doctors as well, where like in a certain area they can't practice, and they'll give them some additional consideration, some additional money for that restriction, and then tell them, hey, if you ever decide to leave, that's fine, but you have to be like outside of a 5 mile radius from where our hospital is, because we think otherwise these patients are going to want to come see you, and you're going to steal them from us, and so we want at least a little bit of a wall so that you're not taking all these people with you when you leave. And so if you're an employee, that's something where, if you get an agreement, you're going to want to look into that to make sure that it doesn't restrict your opportunity either. Again, great resources. City of Chicago has with the BACP, Small Business Center hours, and certainly their website and maintain it. But you're all part of this program, so you're all fully aware of the great programming that they do have and that they put out. But make yourself available of those resources. And again, don't be afraid to go to local chamber events, to local, other events, in order to kind of put yourself out there, network, learn from people, grow your network as well of people that you can rely on, that you can bounce ideas off, that you can have just a shoulder if you need it. There's going to be ups and downs in your journey, no matter what they are. So it's great to just have a wide net so that you can be of service to people and you can retain those services from them, whether it's something monetary or whether that's emotional support or mental well-being support as well. Certainly something to consider. And again, do what's best for you, your business, your family at the end of the day. In terms of the business license for City of Chicago, very important as well. Got the link over there that you can follow in terms of making sure that you do things and you do things right, so that you are above board on everything that you do. And especially if you have something like a restaurant, you have requirements for public health and things like that that you want to stay on top of and make sure when you do those inspections that you're maintaining a safe workplace, not only for yourself and your employees and your staff, but also for the people eating at your establishment and the public. And there's my contact information. We'll have a new office address for downtown as of April 1st. That is not an April Fool's joke. But please, again, happy to talk further with anyone that has any questions or things like that. But for right now, we'll leave this slide up and we'll go to questions. See if I can do it.
We do have some questions. First question, how do you purchase targeting advertising?
Anywhere you if you do like Google AdWords, for example, they'll go online and you can go through their websites and actually choose like specific words, and you can put a dollar limit on the amounts that you want to use. Certain words, like for example, personal injury. There's a lot of attorneys out there. Those are bigger cases. They've got higher marketing budgets, things like that. It might cost, like $5 per click. I don't know what the exact amounts are, but it's a psychotic amount because those are more in demand terms. If you're talking about something hairbrushes, those are going to be like super in demand terms, and so the Google AdWords market budget will kind of determine what each word is worth. And so when you search, that's what's going to come up on the side about like targeted ads and things like that. Facebook does a really nice one too, also for a local company, especially if you have a certain geographic area where you can go just on their website, make the business page, and then you'll see like targeted advertising on there as well, where you can list the amount of time that you want an ad to run so that people actually see like a little ad on there and what that cost would be for every time someone sees it or when they're scrolling or when someone clicks on it and what that cost will be. And so you can set limits on what that amount will be, the area, like what radius from this address that you want. Sometimes they allow you to use keywords and filter it by like professions or relationship statuses or things like that. So like if you got a dating service, you're probably going to want to go for single people. I don't know. Sometimes married people are, the biggest jerks when it comes to that. So, but maybe you do want to target it to those people as well, depending on what your services are. But those are some resources that you can use. And it's as soon as you kind of create your business or you start getting into these things, it's kind of funny. Like your address gets out there, all of a sudden they're going to come the mailers and the emails and all that stuff is going to come to you because that's their business and they'll say like, oh, let's help you grow your business and let's help you spend your money kind of thing on ads and things like that. And so you want to be careful, especially when you create a business with Secretary of State or anything else that you do. Like right away you're going to get a whole bunch of advertising because they're trying to sell you on their services. And so you got to be careful to make sure that you're not just blowing all your money on all these other people and that they're going to leave you at the drop of a dime.
Next question. Are there exceptions to electing into an S Corp after 3 years of formation?
Yeah, if you're talking, yeah. So that was one part. Thanks for the follow-up and the clarification. With the LLC, you can choose to have the S corp election for tax purposes, and typically over like $30,000 in revenue, you start being able to take deductions and things like that. And again, talk with your accountant or tax professional for what's best for your situation. But typically, you can always ask for forgiveness afterwards or ask for an election afterwards. And so your account would fill that out, and it's kind of like a special request to say, hey, my business wasn't doing great the first 3 years. I was doing it out of my garage. It was, we were just figuring out because we had to build this new thing. But now we're taking off, and I still want to keep the same company name and all that stuff. But I just want to do the S corp election, and so you'd write to the IRS and request what that reason is to kind of give you a variance for that. And have that approval. Or, worst come to worst, you start up a new company because by that time, maybe you'll have like a different brand name or partners that want to get involved and they want it set up a certain way as well. So there is flexibility though with that if you do want to elect it after the 3 years.
Can you talk more about competing businesses? For example, two coffee shops on the same block.
Well, so if you know there's a coffee shop right there, like right away, that's going to be part of your market research when you're looking at opening up the coffee shop, right? You're gonna want to like find a place that doesn't have or within a certain amount of feet. Like if you're in the city, Starbucks are at every corner, and it makes sense because the density of people and locations and multi-residential units and things like that, it's a lot more. So you can still have a business even if you've got a coffee shop 2 blocks down the road because people that are in one building are not going to want to go out and walk two additional blocks, right? So they might want that local one right there. So it's not a huge issue. But if you're like in the suburbs and the people are willing to drive a little bit further or go a little bit, having two stores right next to each other isn't going to be the best situation. So when you're doing your market research, you might want to say like, look, there's a Starbucks already over there, or there's like a small coffee shop over there. So I'm just going to go, I'm not going to look anywhere within a 1 mile radius of this place. And so that kind of starts you just literally get a map and you start looking around and say, okay, it's got to be outside this area. That's where I want shops. So now let me look for vacant storefronts or things like that could support what my shop is going to be and where I'm going to be. And that kind of dictates what your location is. And that's the same thing for when you're like expanding. You want to make sure that you're not eating into your own businesses. So if you open up another coffee shop, you're going to want to do it in a different town completely, potentially, so that you're not competing against your own people. And then if you are doing, like I mentioned, with a lease review, you're going to want to have exclusive use on that so that you make sure that the landlord doesn't bring in another coffee shop because the landlord they might not care who the uses are and if you guys eat each other at the end of the day they just care about that the rent's going to come in, so it's to the landlord's benefit at the end of the day to not have two coffee shops because otherwise the landlord potentially she is going to lose both units and they're going to have to go find some new tenants, so it's not going to work best. So it's in their best interest to have a variety and make it kind of a destination strip center so that people want to go there for dry cleaners, and in the meantime they go over and have some coffee and then go somewhere else to have some food and then peruse a shop or something like that and kind of make it that way. That's where like those bigger centers, like where you got like a Home Depot and a Costco, where you go to and kind of make it a lifestyle center developers that are looking for. So it's in their interest to not compete. But again, you're going to want that protection as the owner because it's great, it should work that way, but you want to make sure in writing that it says that. And so one way is the commercial lease where you say exclusive use. I'm the only one in the strip center that can sell coffee, period. So even if you get a rest, or if you're selling cards, you want to make sure if another store comes in that they're not selling cards as well. Like even as a small part of their business, that you're the only one in that strip center that can sell birthday cards, for example. So as much protection as you can to make sure that you're not going to be held hostage by another company. That's something that you want as a business owner.
Next question. How can you move a contract from a personal signing to a company signing?
The best way to do that is to effectively have an amendment where, or you can have what's called an assignment. So if you just Google assignment provision or something like that, effectively it's just a separate agreement, a separate contract that's referred to as an assignment typically, where it just says all the rights and responsibilities of this agreement that was signed as Augie Filippone individually when I was just starting out because I didn't have a nickel to my name, and now I got two nickels. Fantastic, I'm doing great. Then you can transfer it over to Augie's Baskets LLCs. Um, sorry, LLC. And then all that responsibility goes from the personal side to the business side. And that's the way you would do it. Because an assignment is perfectly fine. Like even if you have like a lease or something and things aren't working out and you want to assign the lease to someone else that's going to take it over so that you're not responsible for the remaining 2 years. The landlord will want to, at the end of the day, it's up to the landlord to decide, but you'll bring it up to the landlord as the tenant and say, look, my business isn't doing great. You can either, I'm going to end up closing shop in a few months anyway, and I don't got any money to my name. So landlord, I found someone that's willing to take over the business, willing to take over the lease. They're a great person. This is your best opportunity to keep getting rent and not have to close up the shop and have it vacant for a few months over the winter and then have to release it and stuff like that. So here they are. And for the landlord, really at the end of the day, all they care about is the person is financially viable and that they're not just some Joe Schmo that they're going into business with. And they'll be typically okay with signing it over. And then that's the way that assuming everything goes right, that you get out of that responsibility for the 2 years remaining in the lease, because that's all you care about is you want to be out and not have any further obligations or responsibilities. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Going to depend on the situation, but that's ideally what you'd like to do, and assignment is what you want to do.
Mm, are non-compliant agreements still enforceable?
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, short answer, non-compliance is a breach of the contract, right? Because it's kind of like you both made promises to each other about what you were going to do and when you're going to do it by and what you were going to provide. And so if some person doesn't do that, that's a breach of the contract. And so certainly you can go after that person. That's why typically on the front end, you're going to want an attorney to look it over to determine what the what your abilities are to go after someone in the case of a breach, and whether you can go after them for like attorney's fees, for costs, for lost opportunity, things like that, because that's all kind of built into there. So like for my basket provider, Augie's Baskets, if the guy that's giving me my baskets all of a sudden says, you know what, I don't like you anymore. I know that we have a contract that I provide you for baskets at $10 a piece for the next 3 years, but I don't care about you anymore. So then I'm going to say, well, got a contract. You breached it because you're not providing me my baskets, even though I'm giving you good money for them. So I'm going to come after you for, usually it's the difference because you still have what's called a duty to mitigate your damages. You can't I can't just say, well, now I got to close up my shop because I can't get baskets. So I'm going to go after you for all the money I lost over the next 3 years. I'd have to go out and like try and find another basket provider that could give me the same kind of product or like product as best as I can. And then what I would do is just maybe the new person says instead of $10, I'm going to charge you $20. So then my damages really would be the difference, the $10 difference that it would be, and that's what it is. Because a contract, insurance, whatever it might be, it's not there to put you in a better place if the other person breaches it. It's there to put you in the same or like place as you would have been had that person not breached it. And so that's why it's important to have those kind of provisions in the contract to know what your rights are against the person that does decide not to fill their end of the bargain.
What's the average cost of registering a trademark at the state and federal level?
It's I mean, it's if you go online to like the Secretary of State's website or with the Illinois, if you're doing a state or if you're doing federal with the USPTO, they're going to have their lists on there and what it costs. With the state of Illinois, it's a few $100s. It's not the end of the world. The USPTO, the federal one, that one could be several $100s to maybe even thousands of dollars. That's not considering like the time and cost for the attorney to put everything together, and if they got to prosecute it or defend it in case you get like an objection to it. But with at the federal level, you also have your charge based on class. So if you look, it's a great website. I love the US. Honestly, USPTO is a fantastic website. They got a lot of videos, helpful information, free. They do like a really easy Boolean search. It's almost like a Google search where you can go to the website and look in. Like even if you're thinking about Augie's Baskets, like that's where my trademark's going to be. I can put in Augie's Baskets and it'll come up with names that are similar and whether those trademarks are alive or dead is what they usually call them. And it'll tell you the class, and the class is like the type of good or service. So if you're doing distilled like vodka or something like that, that'll be its own class. Because if I'm using Augie's Baskets to sell vodka for whatever reason, I don't care if someone's using Augie's Baskets to sell t-shirts, because my business is not t-shirts, it's vodka. And so I'm not worried about causing confusion in the market that way, because at the end of the day, a trademark is all about limiting the amount of confusion in the marketplace and people that are kind of thinking one thing is another thing. And so that's what it's about. But that goes by class. And again, it's going to be like clothing as a class, distilled liquors as a class, food service as a class, different things. And then there's subclasses in each of those as well, where you can kind of be as specific as you want for what you want your trademark to refer to and where you want to protect it in that area of business, whether it's good or a service on there. So Honestly, if you haven't been to USPTO and you got questions on it, that's a great place to start. A lot of really helpful information about design marks, word marks, all these things. Just a lot of really good information on there and free and available to you 24 hours a day.
Do financial services firms require licenses in Illinois?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're going to want to check with the state for any kind of professional service or non-professional service that you provide, and making sure that you have those particular licenses. Usually, IDFPR is the one that does the licensures for other things, like for attorneys' licenses. We go through the ARDC, the Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission for Illinois as well. Doctors have their own licensures, professionals have their own. For financial professionals too, you have different uh, requirements for certifications and continuing education and disclosures for ethics purposes, to make sure that customers understand certainly, are you working, are you the client or are you selling specific services? Like sometimes you'll have insurance professionals too, where they only sell State Farm and they're specific State Farm agents versus other ones that are independent agents that can sell any kind of insurance and work and find the best quote for you based on those companies that they work with, and not just State Farm, who State Farm guy can only sell you State Farm stuff. They're not going to sell you, something else. They're not going to sell you American Family if they're still around. And Yeah, so those are the kinds of things that you want to look for. And then also, depending on what your business it is, you'll want to look with the whatever the local municipality is that coordinates the licenses and the oversight. Because if you've got something like a restaurant or you're opening a shop, you may need a local zoning or other requirements of the municipality. Like if you're in Forest Park or something, you're going to want to, and that's an easy call. Just reach out to community development department for any municipality to say like, hey, I'm looking to open up, a shop over here. Is this area zone for it? Are there any restrictions on what I can do or hours of operation? Things like that. How many lights I could put outside? If you got like a new place and you got like a restaurant and you want to have neon lights, there might be restrictions on the amount of nits or amps that you can use for lighting in that area because it's surrounded by residential. So again, things that are easily ahead of time as part of your process when you're looking for a place or what to do, have those calls, have those conversations with, in this case, community development department or local licensing officials to see what you need and when you need it and what you'll need for continuing as well.
Um, how would you add an amendment to that lease for non-compliant of business?
Uh, any kind of you can add an amendment to anything, whatever contract it is. Really, at the end of the day, it's just you're going to have to get sign off by everyone involved. So it's an additional exhibit, an amendment, whatever people want to call it, but it's just something else that you attach to the original lease and the terms inside there, and it'll just say something simple like, "Hey, on this date." We changed this term, so now paragraph 5 that talks about this is going to be changed to this. Frequently in leases, the place you'll see it is when someone exercises an option to renew. And I'll just say like, hey, I still want to be around. I'm okay with the price that we already agreed to with the, you know, 4% increase, five, whatever increase it was at the start, and I want to exercise my option to stay here another 5 years. And so it's just a piece of paper. And so long as it's signed off by all the parties, so that there's agreement and a meeting of the minds about that, it becomes effective. And then it's as if it was part of the original contract, and it just keeps terms going. And whatever is edited, it that becomes the new document because of the date and when you agree to it, that becomes the new terms that you live by.
Any experience using virtual addresses for businesses?
Yeah, you can certainly do that. There's some groups like out here in Arlington Heights. There's a co-working space. In the city there's certainly plenty of co-working spaces and things like that. And there's no issue with that. It's a great tool to use so that you don't necessarily need an office and you don't need that overhead consistently and built into your numbers. And so a lot of times people, especially like nowadays, especially after COVID, like people have come way more comfortable with Zoom calls and doing things online, and there's a lot more resources online too. So it's not the end of the world. Like sometimes you'll hear about people doing business in a coffee shop and stuff like that, which is it's fine depending on what your business is. If you've got like a people-facing business, like a law service or something, and you've got concerns about privilege and confidential subjects and making sure to keep people's confidences, you probably don't want to be talking about that stuff in a Starbucks, and you probably don't want, me as your lawyer blabbing their mouth and talking to you, on a Bluetooth speaker in the middle of a rush hour at a coffee shop or something, so everyone else can hear what your business is. And that's got its own issues with privilege too that could be easily broken. But that's from a legal perspective. But yeah, virtual offices are great. I really like them, for clients as well that have those kind of businesses where they just get a desk and a mailbox to kind of put that and to meet people when they need them, and then work remotely whenever they don't need it. In terms of some other services too that are virtual, some people they like they got like these virtual assistants where they'll actually answer the calls for you, and you agree to whatever that is, and then they take your phone number and it gets rerouted to them, and so it's almost like you got your own assistant, but it's not you actually paying an assistant to come to the office and pick up the phone physically. It's just a service that does it, and then they route the calls to you if it's someone that you want or a new customer, or they'll take some limited information so they can give you a note, and then you can decide whether you want to follow up with them or not with a call, or route the call to you. And then some other virtual services, they have like these ones where you can use as like they get your mail and then they just scan it and send it to you. And that's a great way too as well if that works for your business. So there's a lot of services out there and a lot of things that you can farm out, because at the end of the day, it's kind of a question of your time and what is how best to use your time. That's kind of your core competency. What's the best thing to do with your time, and what should you be spending on in order to get the best value for yourself and your business, currently and down the road. Just the problem with startups and people doing it, usually there isn't the money for it to start off, and so you're kind of handling everything yourself, and you're giving up that time because you just don't have the money for it, and so your time isn't as valuable yet, and so you're willing to make that sacrifice and put in that additional time.
I believe we have one more question. Which
Great.
entity structure usually leads to the least tax issues?
That one I'm going to punt on because it's going to depend largely on what kind of business or service, what kind of business that you're doing. I mean, at the end of the day, you always hear about people stacking LLCs and pass through and stuff like that. But talk with your tax professional, talk with your accountant to confirm what you can or can't do in order to make sure that you're not being accused of something untoward by the agencies that are overseeing this. But there's different obligations and different requirements. Certainly, if you're like a business that collects tax like alcohol, serving food or tobacco or things like that, it's going to be a lot. My business as a legal services provider, it's a lot different than the guy down the street that's selling pizzas, because he's got more taxes involved and he's got more local taxes, state taxes that they need to take on each transaction that they do as well, and that impacts what the overall. And then for me personally and what would come to my pocket as an owner, it's going to depend on whatever level and receipt that I have, as well as what expenses. I mean, for a law firm, the expenses are going to be certainly there are expenses. There's overhead staff, costs for running office equipment, stuff like that. But compared to a restaurant, which has got spoilage, overhead with the actual location, employees, additional work comp, threats, additional inventory and maintenance and things like that, they're probably going to have a lot more deductions too. So it's not really an answer to your question. It kind of depends, but that's why you want to work with a qualified tax professional and accountant to kind of figure out what is that best avenue for you. And I often tell people when they're starting out, have the attorney, the accountant, the insurance person, like have them all introduce everyone and work together to kind of figure out what the best way is so that you've got everyone that's got specialized knowledge in that area, whether it's law or whether it's taxes or whether it's commercial real estate or whatever. They're all working together and they're all working on your team so that you have your bench built up.
Doesn't look like we have any more questions. Any final thoughts for today's attendees?
No, just again, appreciate all your time and congratulations. And sincerely, as much as I can, encourage you, please continue trying things, continue getting out there, take smart risks, believe in yourselves and your ability to do things and be who you are. And just uh, don't ever hesitate to ask questions or take those smart risks and continue on your journey. It's not going to be always the greatest of times, but you kind of take the good and the bad and you live in the middle. So stay consistent. That's going to be your best avenue for sustained long-term accomplishment and opportunity.
Thank you for our today's presentation. If you are a part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, your account will automatically reflect your attendance for today. To learn more about this program and to join, please visit chicago.gov/BACP certificate. Join us next Thursday as we host our first Small Business Expo. This expo will be remote. To register and to learn more about the expo, please visit chicago.gov/biz expo. That's BIZ expo. Again, that's chicago.gov/BIZ expo. Today's webinar was recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Chicago BACP. Thank you again for your attendance and have a great evening.